Okay, guys, welcome back. We have a couple of firsts this week. We have someone in the business intelligence realm, and our first guest that has made a career in the gambling and daily fantasy sports industries. Obviously, we have a lot of young guys watching that are pretty actively involved in those industries. So we're going to hear all about what careers are like, uh, to work in those. And today we have Frazier Seay-Rad. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it. Glad to be here. Really excited.
Yeah, so your title is Director of Business Intelligence in the daily fantasy sports industry. I like to start every episode just, when we have a new skill set. Why don't you just define business intelligence, what it is to companies and why should people maybe be interested in something like this?
Yeah, it's a good question. Listen, business intelligence is huge. It's used by every single company, whether people know about it or not. What we're doing is taking massive, massive amounts of data and we're transforming that into actionable insights, right? So that's everything from financial analytics, there's even accounting pieces, there's product analytics, there's game operations, there are different types of analytics that fall into business intelligence, but it's all about how do we take the data that we have and make informed decisions for the business going forward. That really helps decisions, honestly, across the board. You could apply analytics to anything. There's been a huge rise, of course, over the years in BI, mainly because the amount of data is it's growing. This isn't where you can shove everything into like a small Excel spreadsheet like you probably once could. Like there's massive databases. They host a ton of data. So a lot of data flying around, and we're the people that try to make sense of it.
Yeah, and always interested in data. This is something you stumbled up across in college. I mean, how did this come about?
Yeah, so it's an interesting career path. I actually thought I wanted to be a police officer. That was my plan. Went down that road, got a degree in criminal justice, thought this is it. Parents didn't want me wearing a bulletproof vest to work every day. Understood. So I went into audit, which is, I joke, it's like corporate police, but went into the auditing side, started at UPS. And how I actually got there was an internship. I was sitting on my friend's bed and I was like, I'm going to apply to 100 different jobs because this is a numbers game. And I actually didn't really like analytics or data at the time. I was not a math person at all. So I steered away from anything in those areas. But as an auditor, I was like, how do I get this data? How do I do all this stuff? And I always had to go to another person. Like, well, why can't I just do that myself? So I spent a lot of time. 9 to 5 was my day job, auditing. 5 to 9, I always say, was like, how do I learn SQL? Do I learn Python? Like, what are these different things? So that way I could, do some automation of some audits. I could, have more informed audits, things like that. And that really, once I found out that I could use data in any organization, it's like the one position in a company that touches every piece of it. I wasn't really pigeonholed to the one department. So that really, propelled my career. And I went over to GoPuff, and then I've been in the gaming space ever since.
So tell us about GoPuff a little bit. A lot of people use that obviously to have things sent. I guess liquor. You can have liquor sent through GoPuff, I believe, right?
Yeah, there's a lot. It's like instant needs delivery. Late hours, you want ice cream, you're sitting on the couch with your friends watching a movie, it's 2 a.m. GoPuff is there, so that's pretty cool. It was really interesting. Definitely like startup sort of function, trying to be, a bigger player, but data that exists there too, right? And how do you inform decisions about product selections? What do people care about? And how do you inform different strategies, right? So that these companies aren't flying blind.
So what was your role there?
I was in analytics there as well.
Okay. I always like to ask data people, what are some interesting insights you might have seen there? Yeah, like you said, lazy people getting Ben and Jerry's at 2 a.m. or anything, any insights there?
Yeah, when you're trying to go after your like audience and be able to provide them with, like, you want your customers to be happy, right? And you want to save steps in their consumer thought process. Like, there's nothing more infuriating as like a customer when you can't find what you're looking for. Like, take search as an example. It's a perfect example. You go to search for something, you misspell it. That's like frustrating. Now you got to backspace everything. You got to type it correctly. Like, that's definitely it's a data problem, right? how do I pick up words that are similar to other words? Let's say you type in ice cream and then you like leave out the E on ice and then you leave out the A in cream. Um, you should still see all the search results for ice cream. It's close enough, right? So that's like a perfect data problem. A lot of people don't realize that's like a data issue. And a lot of people don't even think about it. It's one of those things that's like creates this frictionless customer experience, but and it's like has intangible benefits, right? Because the second you have to type things, you have to backspace. Like when Apple's autocorrect goes down and I'm just trying to type a sentence, I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize how much I use autocorrect like that. So same sort of deal there. But yeah, that's one like really cool, I think, use case that people don't really know about.
So going from audit to analytics there, what skills did you have to pick up? I mean, were they teaching you things on the job at GoPuff?
Um, yeah, so I really got into the data on the UPS side, but I spent a lot of time learning SQL. That's like, or SQL, a lot of people call it. That's like your basic querying language for data. And so it's actually really easy. It's not like a programming language like you would think of with like C sharp or C++ or Java or anything. So it's a light language. And the way that I think about it is like you're selecting what columns you want from, where do those columns exist, where insert like whatever you think of like filters, right? Could be like where ice cream, name is Ben and Jerry's or something. And that would, came about because like I said, like Excel only has like a million rows.
Mm.
And believe it or not, a lot of companies have a lot more than a million rows of data in one particular spot. So that allows you to like apply a lot of those filters. So that's what I learned first because I knew that the questions I wanted to answer could not be answered without something heavy and bigger than just Excel. Because I mean, I had that open on my screen too. Once I found out about like what is a database, and then I started asking. I was always asking questions. I mean, ever since I was like 3 years old, since I could talk, I've been asking why and asking every question. Um, then I wanted to get into like kind of like the data science side because I had covered some of the analytics side and knew like I want to get into the predictive stuff, right? Or the recommendation systems and personalization. I didn't have the math knowledge. I actually bought all those for dummies books, which I'm a huge advocate for because they're quick reads. But I had linear algebra for dummies and calculus for dummies. And I mean, I taught myself, I created a curriculum and I was like, I'm going to learn enough. And that's what I did. I mean, that probably lasted. I was focused and dedicated. This is really like, I feel like before boot camps became popular,
Mhm.
but I mean, I did that for months. I still don't know everything, but I did it for a long time. And then there was a certain point at which I realized like you could have the most technical skill set, but in the world, but you have to like understand the business side too, which is you can be an analyst and not understand the business side, but you're not necessarily going to be as effective if you understand the business side. And what I mean by that is understanding marketing, understanding product, understanding finance. Like, what are the basics of how those things work? Because at the end of the day, this is like a system and they're all communicating with each other. And so to be an effective analyst, even if you were, say, working in like marketing analytics, it's what do the things that I'm doing for marketing, how does that impact the business to influence the types of questions that you could answer to get people thinking, right?
Okay, so self-taught in SQL.
Yep.
So then you kind of, but you actually went back and kind of relearned all the math basics too to kind of help with that.
Yep.
When do you start picking up some of the other skills? Python. I don't know if you're into Tableau or some of the other BI tools. I mean, what's your kind of main tool you use there as well?
Yeah, there's a ton. So when you learn one visualization tool, you kind of feel and can understand like how to use the rest. But like there's Power BI, there's Tableau, there's Mode, there's Looker. They all have this like basic principle. I think the way that I went about it was I want to present this data I had in front of me. I was like, I mean, there's a lot to look at. It's in a spreadsheet. So I want to put it in a chart. I'm pretty sure I was like, I just don't know how to use sheets. Like once I got down to the data I wanted, I was like, I don't know how to make that look nice in Excel. So I remember Googling like what are the different tools and I saw that Power BI was like free. Downloaded the desktop version, had no idea what I was doing, but I saw rows and columns and I was like, well, that's the starting point that I have too.
Mm.
Pie charts, graphs. It looked fun. It was interactive. Other people could do things. I mean, I just thought it was like the coolest thing. And then ever since then, I mean, every job has like a slightly different flavor of a visualization tool. And that was helpful, I think. But definitely what changed the game, like I was saying, like on the business side, was it's not about how many charts you can put on something or what that tool is. It's like, how do I display the data in a way that the person on the other end who's making the decision will understand very quickly? Because you can lose people really fast. So, I mean, at that point, I had the SQL knowledge. I started on like down the Python train, but that is also can be kind of like intense, and it depends on what you're trying to accomplish there. Like if you're going down the data science route, like absolutely you need it. But on the BI side of me, I made it pretty far without it. It's now like a supplement to the day to day. You can get very, very far. You probably do like 85% of your job using SQL alone. Putting that into some sort of like visualization software. And then, of course, every step of the way is connecting with who am I answering this question for, right? What do they want? What decisions are going to be made? And not everything goes in a dashboard either. That was another thing I learned later on was instead of saying like somebody tells me, hey, I want this data in a dashboard. Well, that's cool. Tell me the problem you're trying to solve, because maybe you actually don't need a dashboard. Maybe this is like 2 bullet points, but I'm actually answering your question directly so you can make that informed decision.
Yeah. And then where does the Python come in? You said maybe only 15% of your job would be Python.
Yeah, if you were trying to like run automated scripts, or you were trying to like, I mean, there's a lot you can do. There's basic like stats packages and stuff like that that you can run, and different types of tests. I think these days, like when I started out, Python wasn't as common in analytics. It really was like SQL. More and more like colleges and master's programs and different degree programs are teaching Python alongside SQL for analytics, because it just opens up the things you can do. You can do the job without it, but there's just like more you can do. And then that separates out, of course, like the data science side is very, very heavy when it comes to more of those like true programming languages.
Yeah, I mean, it's essential, obviously, in data sciences, right? So, okay, so you're at GoPuff. It was, that was a couple years ago. It was obviously a pretty quickly rising company then. What made you leave, and what was the process of going over to? That's when you went to Barstool, correct?
Yes, at the time it was Barstool Sportsbook. I ended up really, I mean, there was mass layoffs at GoPuff. That definitely impacted my whole team. So that was, I mean, I was a little discouraged for a little while, applied again, same methodology. Let me apply to all these jobs, and ended up, meeting a lot of people, had a lot of like LinkedIn outreach, and connected with somebody that was, working at Barstool, who actually ended up becoming the person I reported to. But my first role there was a strategic analytics manager over casino. So anything on the casino side, it was a new industry for me, but I tend to learn things fast. I mean, logistics was new at a certain point. The instant needs consumer goods was the thing at a certain point. So it was just like anything else. That was my sales pitch. Like I'm a perpetual beginner. I'm a beginner still, even today, with like just hobbies. So um, I did that for a little bit. That started to branch out into more of the media side, into more of the sports book side. And that then it became like overarching business stuff. And so by the time I left, Barstool became ESPN Bet. By the time I left, I had touched pretty much every part of the business across sportsbook, casino, and media.
Yeah. So, I mean, why don't you tell us, what was that like? That was, yeah, I mean, that was during the craze. Everyone was trying to get into the online gambling. And obviously Barstool was pushing the hell out of their sports book and everything. What was that like?
Yeah, it's fun. It was awesome. Honestly, like the people I worked with were really cool. When I started there, I had only seen there was like a couple of videos or something that would float across my For You page on different social media networks. And that's how I knew a Barstool. And I was listening to the Call Her Daddy podcast, which at the time was a Barstool, podcast. So I was listening to that. That's how I knew the name. I saw this, I was like, oh, that sounds cool. Didn't actually, realize it was this whole sports book. Got into this industry. And everyone was, just so excited about the future, right? COVID hit. You couldn't go into these different casinos. You still wanted to have that camaraderie, still have that feel. And so there was a lot of passion and let's make these great experiences and let's make it fun. Um, so it was just such a cool thing. And I think what a lot of people don't realize is like, yeah, it's Barstool, and yes, there's Barstool Media. There's also Barstool Sportsbook at the time. There's like a ton of jobs in that industry, right? Like it's a business just like any other. So, you know, if people are interested in marketing or they're interested in customer support, like every single function exists in there. So of course I was nested down into data, but yeah, it was a wild time. I really loved it. I would go to Philly into the Barstool office. It was great. And then the ESPN bet side was great too. I met a lot of great people. There was a lot of cool like ESPN leadership. I had it was just like a different ball game, no pun intended. But it was fun, and we, built really cool lasting products.
You said so. It was COVID when you started. Did you go when you say Philly? Was that like I know Penn was in Reading, PA? Did you go out there? Did they have a like downtown Philly office? Like, what was that like?
Yeah, it was so at the time it was like just the interactive division was out of that Philly office. Like Penn obviously has like a ton of brick and mortar casinos across and racetracks, right, across a ton of different and hotels across a bunch of states. The interactive division was based out of the office that was in Philly. Um, yeah. So we would go, I mean, I didn't live there, but of course, like remote travel, we'd get everyone together, whether it was like holiday events or, it could be parties, get-togethers, whatever. There was definitely a few times that I went up there, and same when it, became ESPN Bet.
What were well, you probably can't say too much, but what were those office parties like at Barstool Sports?
It was great. We had really cool swag. There was just like honestly a lot of fun stuff, and they like everyone just getting together, meeting out in Philly. Philly's a good time in general. The crowds are really cool. There was I don't know if it's still there. It was called Barstool Bar. I don't know if
Yeah, that's still there.
yeah. So I remember us all going there, right? Which was like a really interesting thing to do. But yeah, I mean, listen, at the end of the day, it's like a corporation. So it's nothing that you would think would be this like insane, but the people and the culture was just, I mean, it was crazy. It was so fun.
Did you meet any of the personalities? Dave, Big Cat, Alex, any of them?
No. No, they were the sports book side of things was different than like the media side.
Mhm.
So there was involvement, but there wasn't as intertwined, I think, or at least not from the role that I was in.
What's up, guys? Hope you're enjoying the episode. Real quick, I just want to let you know we now have the Tech Career Accelerator for anyone that watches. We're going to get you a job via updating your LinkedIn, fixing your resume, running you through mock interviews, and I work with you until you get hired. So it is 100% success rate. Check it out, link below. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. So it was still, it really had the guts of Penn, right? And they put Barstool as like the marketing arm, basically, on
Um,
with their shared services. Like,
yeah, it was like, Penn wanted to get into the mobile gaming,
mhm.
and that was their avenue, I believe, that of doing that. Like obviously I wasn't really involved in like those strategy conversations, but um it that's how that started. Yeah.
Yeah. And any data insights? I'm going to ask you this every stop, but any data insights at Barstool? I don't know. I know guys doing like 20 leg parlays. Did anyone hit for like $1 million? So you're like, oh my God. Like, I mean, what did you see?
Yeah, parlays are interesting for sure. There was definitely, I mean, there's jackpot winners. Like people do win. There's a strategy. I saw like people would honestly, like I don't know what was necessarily like the most interesting thing. Probably seeing like the media campaigns or seeing that the decisions that data would influence to then influence like media campaigns, understanding like what the customers really want or how much they engage with the feature. Like there was a casino like recommender on there, right, of the different types of games, which I think is pretty cool. But yeah, that like, as far as like interesting data points, I mean, people, there's no doubt that people play like a ton of parlays. I've never seen I had a 16 like parlay. It was all on the money line for across a bunch of different games, and I lost in the first leg. Bummer. I know. I could have had I think it was like 68,000 was the payout for my Dollar Tree.
Yeah.
I was like, let's see how long this lasts, whole season. But yeah, I mean, people can win.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about the process. You know, your Barstool, everyone has the t-shirts, the swag, and then suddenly they sell the name back to Portnoy for $1 or something, and then they become ESPN Bet.
Yeah. Then we have ESPN Media partnership. ESPN Bet, became this like essentially the sports book, the casino. Still have some of that swag hanging in the closet, some fun shirts. But honestly, I mean, under the hood, a lot of things don't, necessarily change when you change those things over. But yeah, and then it's still all of the same types of questions and things that you would want to answer about, like what are customers doing? What do they want to see? How are like our transactions? How are like our customer support tickets? All of the same things are relevant regardless of the brand.
So at what point does the daily fantasy world call you? I mean, it seems like you'd be a perfect fit. You're kind of dealing with the same kind of customer, like the same customers that are doing like the parlays that do daily fantasy, right? Did they find you or did you find them?
They found me, but I will say the reason I was looking for a change is because I had done the analytics side end to end before, and I really enjoyed it. Ended up when I was leaving ESPN Bet, I did a lot of data science focused work and product work and using data like as a product, which I think is a newer thing. Matter of fact, that's the next for dummies book I need to buy. I see that they either have or are coming out with one. But that it was like, I mean, yeah, it's kind of a natural fit. There's definitely differences. But overall, I mean, it's still sports, fan base. People care about the same sorts of things. There's no casino component or anything like that. But yeah, I wanted to get back to those roots. I wanted to go back to analyzing the data. Sometimes I feel like the business intelligence side, because there's so many different departments that you're pulling data for, you're connecting with, and you're so much closer to stakeholders, right? And by stakeholders, I mean like my customers, which are those other departments in the organization versus like traditional customers being the people that download your app. There's more opportunity to get quicker wins. To like these data science projects can take 6 months. They could take a year. I mean, it just take a long time, right? And you're not usually interfacing with those stakeholders as much. And I've always been a business-oriented, people-oriented strategy person. I see the whole thing. And I think because I was just in that data science world, I was like, oh, but I see all these other things and all these other opportunities that I could cover, and just wasn't like in that position to do so. So I kind of went back to my roots.
So why don't you give us an example of both? It could be a generic, like, or maybe specific that you dealt with at these companies where, so like marketing will say, hey, like, what are they asking you? Like, can you run a report on how many guys from this college bet? Or like, I mean, like, what would be an example of the BI project and the data science project that you deal with?
Yeah. Like, so a typical, I mean, BI project could be, we just ran this campaign. It cost us X number of dollars. How many people played as a result in the following week, right? That's your data org is going to answer that. Your analytics, your business intelligence org will answer that. The data science side is, there's a couple of different flavors in there. By the way, that ask is like maybe a day, like hours, right? So quick turnaround time on things like that.
Can I ask how what do you do for that?
To get to that answer?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you would just pull like, so how many people, saw that campaign? Maybe let's just say you pushed out an email as an example. How many people clicked on the email? How many people opened that email? How many people played as a result within a certain time frame, right? Because you can't say something that happened a month later could be attributed to that email. But if they clicked on that email and they played 20 seconds later, then you might be able to attribute those things together. There's a lot of like attribution and modeling and things like that. That's kind of the process that you would go through that. And then the data science side, there's like the whole personalization arm, right? Where you want to personalize an experience for a user based on like the things that you might know about a customer. So you could, in the instance of like casino games, like I know this customer has played X, Y, and Z casino games before. Well, other users that play X, Y, and Z games also play A, B, and C games. So then you make this determination of, okay, well, is it true that those users could be somewhat similar if their preferences are similar? You see the same thing on Netflix too, right? Like they had that For You section. They're like, hey, you might want to see this. And you're like, oh my gosh, absolutely. It's probably because there's another user who watched something that you have watched and they pull all this stuff together. That's like way oversimplifying it. Also, like how related are two types of movies? If you're a horror fan, maybe recommend another horror fan and you get down into the intricacies. The same thing. That's an example of the data science side, but something to like building like that. So what I was saying, like that analytics problem is like a couple hours. If that data science problem to solve at the user level could take you 6 months. I mean, that's just throwing a random timeline on that, but it takes a while. There's a lot of data to sift through. You have to feed it back into the app. You have to plug those two things in together. And so there's just a lot more of making sure, like you can't take the app down. You want to make sure that it works all the time, that it's showing the right thing. So there's a lot more of like, I would say standards around that than just getting to a number.
When you talk about industries, like I want to know what it's like to work in the daily fantasy industry, because you talk about industries, it's like AI, and then like what else is growing as fast as you guys? Really, I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't even say crypto anymore. I'd
Yeah.
probably say you guys are number two, maybe. I'm sure forgetting something, but I mean, what's it like?
Yeah, it's always fast paced. The culture, is really good. The people are always, a lot of times, and it's not always, sports fans. I was not a sports fan. I mean, yeah, it was whatever, but I wasn't there watching. I watch a lot more of sports now. I go to a lot of sporting events. I went to like 3 Hawks games last year, which was actually this year which is like pretty crazy. I went to some Atlanta United games and stuff. So I pay attention more. So a lot of sports fans, a lot of very energized people that want to solve like the hardest problems, right? In a field that like things that they really, really care about. So there's always that shared. We do a lot of golf. That's always fun. We, there's it's everything is definitely centered around sports, camaraderie, what's going on, what's in the news, Taylor Swift and Kelsey and all that. So there's a lot. Yeah.
Skews younger, I'm assuming, like, for the most part.
I mean, yeah, I think there's like it's pretty versatile.
Okay. All right. So there are some older people as well.
Yeah, there's people across the board that really that are interested for sure.
I know in the sports industry, like especially obviously like, the product is the players and like the front office and coaches. And then I know some of the back office and like tech jobs, like they can get away with paying less because people just want to be involved in, professional sports. I mean, do you see any of that? Because the demand to probably get into a job in daily fantasy is going to be higher. I mean, you think it's well paying, normal industry average, or maybe they can go a little lower like professional sports do?
No, I think that most of the tech things, because at the end of the day, you're either an app or a web application. So it's generally, I mean, it's on par with other tech and application because I mean, Uber, there's no real difference between like from that lens of like having the Uber app, right? Or the Chick-fil-A app. At the end of the day, those are apps and there's people supporting those apps, which I actually think is really different from the professional sports teams.
I mean, anything else I'm assuming young guys are going to watch us because they want to get into, a career like this and industries like this. Give us the best tips from a director level. Like, what would you do?
Listen, I think, and I'll speak for it more. I mean, if your goal is to get into sports and then analytics, it's like showing your passion. What's going to separate you out is knowing how to, like I was talking about earlier, connecting to like business needs, pushing back on, oh, I just need a dashboard. Like sometimes interview questions, it's like asking the right questions to the stakeholder to make sure, or during the interview process, to make sure that, are you asking the right questions or are you just taking direction from that stakeholder? Because sometimes those stakeholders, like they might not have the level of data or know the best way of answering it. They just have like the general question. It's your job to say, well, I hear what you're saying. I think what you're asking is about this, right? So I think being able to display that kind of critical thinking skill is really important. Majoring wise, like you could major in anything. I see all kinds of resumes. There's a lot of sports fans first that have other types of degrees. If you're going more broad, there's any kind of degree could land you a job in sports. I think it comes down to the passion that you have and being able to stand out like any other interview process would be, which is, like I say, connecting to the business, having a polished resume. I think getting to the point during the interviews, following up, timeliness with recruiters, and showing that you're serious, and then always researching the companies, talking about how you could add value, what you would do different. And that's at any level, right? Like sometimes I'm a big believer, your title or the level you're going for doesn't matter. You have the potential to have impact even as like a junior analyst. All the ideas come from, people at the top. Like that is such a misconception. Like, so I think that's like, how do you make yourself stand out, and really polishing those like soft skills, I think is huge, because you can go and learn all the academia, but polishing those up is definitely advice that I have. And then if you're going more broad and you want to go into like any kind of department, really any kind of degree, because again, there's still marketing people, right? All different backgrounds. There's people that run social media accounts. There's people that do finance. There's people that do accountants. Like you could go be a CPA and still work at a sports company. There's lawyers. There's people in HR. There's no shortage in every single app. That's true of every single app, right? And then once you're in, it's easier to like float around to get the exposure, especially when you're more junior. Raise your hand and say, hey, I'm really actually interested in this other area. Another great way is internships. A lot of internships convert into full-time employment. And so reaching out to people on LinkedIn, being able to apply to job posts, looking out for those internships. That's like another avenue. But at the end of the day, if there's 300 candidates that apply, it's like, how am I going to make myself stand out? Because you might all like sports and you might all have the technical background. So what are you going to do different, right? I think that's huge. And then setting, what is my brand?
One question about BI. What are you seeing as far as the impact of AI? I mean, are you worried? Are there reasons not to be worried? What have you seen so far?
I see AI as being something that was like supplemental, not really a replacement. And I'm not just saying that because I'm like in BI. I've seen the AI side. I've worked with AI. I've put AI things into apps before. So I see it as more of like something I can use to help my day to day, because at the end of the day, you still have to know context. Chances are, if you're a really good analyst, the person on the other side that's asking the question has to be asking the right question. That's the only way the AI would work. And there's a lot of back and forth and context and questions and nuance that AI just doesn't help with. But that doesn't mean that you can't use it, right? Like I might say, hey, I need a product pitch, or I need to solve this problem, or I don't know, like, how do I, all the time I Google, it doesn't matter how long you're in analytics or you're in any form of data, like you're still going to ask the basic question of like, what is a window function, which is a common SQL thing. And like, what are the different types of window functions? Like that's still like an area that you could use AI, right? You could do project proposals. It's just speeding up our day to day. I don't see it as a replacement. Matter of fact, I think even more now is those soft skills that because like the AI can't replace the soft skills. They're not going to, AI can't do the interview. They can't talk to the person on the other side. So I think that I don't see it as something that'll be a replacement, at least not in the near future, regardless of how good those tools are today, because there's still data engineering. There's still a lot of cleaning that needs to happen ahead of time. But, AI can be used to make those things more efficient and honestly should be.
Okay, great. Well, listen, this was awesome. I mean, do you have anything else you want to share about people looking to get into your industry or BI in general? What type of people should kind of look out for this? Obviously, people good with numbers, or I'll just leave it to you.
Yeah, I think if you're good with numbers, and you don't even have to be, I wasn't, like, I was just good at asking questions. I think some of the best analysts are the most critical thinkers. So if your passion is, I want to touch multiple areas of the business, I don't know which area, and I want to ask a lot of questions, and I want to ask hard questions, then analytics is definitely a career. MBI is definitely a career possibility.
Wow. Awesome. This is great. I mean, obviously you're the first person we've had in gambling, daily fantasy, NBI. So checking 3 boxes and kind of giving some great insights on all 3 of those things. So thanks again, Frazier.
Yeah, of course. Likewise.
Great. All right, guys. Well, I will have I will be doing a supplementary BI, how to get into it, and some ins and outs of that industry as well. So look out for that. And Frazier, thanks again.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Great. We'll catch you guys next time.